pace of anyone else. So if you cannot pause, that can be a bit stressful. So if this is your first time with us, feel welcome to just watch, observe, take notes, and then you will have access to the replay for 48 hours, so during a limited time period. So you can always do this at your own pace, so you can pause and do this afterwards. If you want to paint along, please do that, and just be aware that you might not get all of the details this round. And yesterday we held a wonderful workshop with Konstantin Sterkov, and there we presented a plein air trip to Turkey in May 2026, and here you can see the beautiful artwork that he created. We were all blown away, those of us who were there, because it looked so complex and it looked so easy when he painted it. And this recording is available, so you can find that in your email, the link and information for that, so that you can watch that as well. But now we're gonna change gears and focus on painting with Nicholas Tobias. And for those who haven't yet met him, let me introduce him to you. He's a wonderful human being, super inspiring, super kind-hearted, and also a professional watercolor artist who is inspired by his travels, as you might already have understood by our conversation so far. He captures memories through photos, sketches, and plein air paintings, meaning outdoor paintings, which he later brings back into the studio to recreate that essence of energy, mood, atmosphere, and light. And he has exhibited his works at various events across the UK, including the prestigious Royal Institute of Painters in Watercolors exhibition at the Mall Galleries in central London, as well as other places. And here we see just an image of what it can look like to be outdoors, be inspired by the beautiful nature, and just living the dream, basically, for many of us. And here we have some examples of you living the dream, Nick. And these are places you have gone to. These are locations that you have found, and then you have interpreted them in watercolor. Could you share some words of how that process looks for you and what drives you to do this?
Yeah, I think when you go out and you're outdoors, you're traveling, or you just, even if you're commuting in your own town, I think it's so inspiring to take inspiration from what you see, and being outside and doing it, you take memories from your trips, from your travels. And when I'm painting outside or looking at locations, I think it's the feeling that that place gives me that I want to bring back. And so, yeah, as you can see here, you have moments in time, and that is something that you want to try and capture. It can be a very fleeting moment. Maybe it's a very particular cloud formation that's happening at the moment, or it's a general view that just takes your breath away. It takes everyone's breath away when they see it. But either way, you want to capture that moment and bring that emotion with you. And that's what I love to do when I'm outdoors painting.
Thank you so much for that. And Nick is also a huge inspiration at Artefacto. His roles here are many. He leads the learning program from basic strokes to advanced techniques. He also teaches in the inspiring watercolor course Atmospheric Light in Watercolor. And as one of our most beloved experts, we can also see him on different live Zoom sessions. And he has also been a curator in the Artefacto Family Club, offering professional, thoughtful feedback. And at the end of the workshop, you will learn how you can get one of Nicholas' courses as a bonus if you join him in painting outdoors. So write in the chat, number one, if you have already had experience in plein air painting, so more than once. I would say that you can have a 0.5 if you've only tried it. No, it's actually wrong. How do we do it if you have a little bit of experience? It's gonna be 1.5. This is tricky for my brain. I wanna know. Okay, let's make it easy. If you've never tried it, a 2. If you have tried it, a 1. So we can see where we are. I would love to have something in between, but it's too complicated for the brain. So we have lots of 1s and 2s. So let me see. Jess writes a 2, only dream to start. We have Nadika, no surprise there, in number 1. Lynn says 1. Deb says 2, so only dream to start. And Simon has a 2. Esther is a 2. Valeria says 1. We have Yasmin saying 1. So Ina has tried it. Judith has not. Julie says 3. So I don't know what that means, Julie. We have 2s, we have 1s, we have 1.5, so once or twice from Deb there. So, oh, lots of 1s, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I love that. So we have lots of people who have tried this, actually a lot, a little bit of a majority, who have experienced this, and also a lot of people who only dream to start, and a few who have tried it a little bit, who had enough brain power to put a 1.5 there. Thank you for those answers. And here we see some of your students' works. Could you share what this is and what you feel when you watch this, Nick?
Oh, it's one of the best parts of teaching is to see the progress within the students that you're teaching, and yeah, as you can see, they're really advanced work. I mean, I think that's one of the beautiful thing about Artefacto is it's all levels and you progress from wherever. There is no ceiling. You can get to this point where you're producing these works. It's lovely to see.
Thank you, that's beautiful. And a talented artist, amazing teacher, and student favorite, Nicholas Tobias will make your learning experience not only valuable but also enjoyable and easy. And there is a kind of calm when Nick teaches that is very good for people who struggle with perfectionism or getting stuck. It just feels very humane and soft and gentle, and you're gonna experience that today. So that's beautiful. Here we see some examples of people who have already painted with Nick. So a very good teacher. Thanks so much for a wonderful time. Loved it. I have loved looking at how Nick uses his brush. A fantastic session, wonderful feedback, etc., etc. And here we have some other examples of Nicholas' works, and you can see that he really loves using watercolor. You can see your passion for watercolor specifically, Nick, in your paintings. Do you have any words on why watercolor?
Oh yeah, I think the transparency is a real game changer when you can have those different layering and I think it creates such realism. And then if you want to get to realism and step back and take, bring your own take, bring your own emotion, make it fluid, make it, exciting, watercolor allows that. So I just, it's sort of like a magical realism where you go from trying to convey what you see in front of you or what the vision you had in your mind, and then just playing around and creating some interest. I think that's a particular skill of watercolor or quality, I should say.
I love that explanation, that we can use realism without getting stuck in photorealism so easily when we use the watercolor technique to our advantage. Beautiful
Mm,
explanation. Thank you for that. And
thanks.
one final comment about Nick is that he's a professional watercolor artist from the UK, loves to travel, finds inspiration all around the world, especially in nature and also outdoor painting, as you can see. And this is the reason why last year, or earlier in 2025, Artefacto together with Nick arranged an incredible offline workshop in Cyprus, so a plein air workshop, a several day long experience. And today we will show you how to take part in a similar adventure yourself. And here we see some examples of this experience, these beautiful places, these smiling faces, and the beautiful artworks, as well as diplomas. And one of the participants who took part of this is actually here today to share her experience both in joining this trip and also talking about plein air painting. So Elizabeth or Beth Himes, warmest welcome to the conversation.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much.
Hi Beth, how's it going?
Sorry
It's
about
going
that. Let me
great.
just,
How are you?
I disappeared the wrong person. So
Okay, so should I would love to
yeah.
ask you some questions, Beth. So,
Sure,
uh,
sure, sure.
great. So, first of all, just tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do.
I live in Asheville, North Carolina, in the United States, and I am retired, been retired for about 5.5 years. And I've been doing watercolor for almost 3 years. And I mostly paint in my studio. I did a little bit of plein air prior to going to the workshop this year. And I look forward to the warmer weather here so that I can go back out and do what I learned.
Mm. So you're familiar with the Artefacto online courses as well. And how is painting on location different?
It's very different in that on location, you feel and experience the place where you are. And then it's so much better than looking at someone else's reference photo or even your own reference photo in the studio. You have the memories of where you were, which just immediately come back to you. And the place, the time, the people who you were with, if you were with people, or memories of people who you were with there at that place.
Yeah, we'll get to the group, but maybe just before, a word on the instructor's feedback, which I guess is me. So, what was your most useful thing you learned from me during your trip?
I think the it reinforced what I already knew because I'd taken several of your courses on Artefacto and loved every one of them. And the thing I like so much about your teaching, and you did it there in plein air, was that you come to the lesson or come to the venue with already outline in mind of what you want to teach. You express that, you show us examples of that, and then you discuss that while you're teaching, and that's not easy to do. And so it's wonderful as a student to have that as you're going along. It reinforces what your outline was, what you already told us. And I think the most that I gained from Cyprus specifically was that I learned to be able to see things outdoors as artists really view them. And so I know several artists, and they just go out there, and I've been with them out there, and they just go ahead and paint. And I never understood all that goes into their minds. And you taught us and showed us by looking at what we were doing in on location, how to find composition, how to simplify that, and then how to put that on paper. And I think by all means, that was the greatest impact from Cyprus with you, Nicholas, was to be able to do that.
Wow, that's so lovely to hear. Yeah, thank you for that. And how about painting in the group? Being with other people while doing it.
Oh, there were several things that I absolutely loved about painting in the group, and uh, I anticipated it before I went, but it so exceeded what I thought. Most of it was with the people who were there, my friends who I now know all over the world, and being in that group while learning adds a different dimension to painting because besides just plain fun and talking art with people, you're actually critiquing each other's work. You're getting and gaining knowledge from one another. And that I found to be to just great. And it's just plain fun to be in a group like that and be able to talk art. You talk about watercolor and you talk about pigment and color theory and kind of get geeky a little bit sometimes, but it's just fun to be with them. It was just a lot of fun.
That's so true. I felt that as well. Even on the buses on the way there, you would just have
Yeah,
conversations where you only really would have a conversation with another artist. And then sometimes you'd have a conversation with only another watercolor artist. And it was so refreshing because you're
yeah.
thinking the same things, you see the same visions outdoors, or maybe it's slightly different. But oh yeah, I absolutely love that feeling of joining together because we have this shared passion. Um, so biggest reward besides paintings, what was your, best personal takeaway?
It was actually an event that happened every day that we were there. And that was at the end of every day, you saw a slide with all of our paintings on a table, and you actually critiqued every single one of our paintings every day, which was so wonderful because not only did I get that information personally from you, but I also learned so much by listening to the critique of everyone else's painting. And I was there with them when they painted it. I talked to some of the people who were beside me as we painted it. So it added so much depth and dimension. I carry that with me even now while I'm painting. I'll remember something that was said in my painting or someone else's. So I think that is the biggest takeaway. What I learned there was cemented there. I even look at a photograph, whether I took it or somebody else took it, and immediately see the composition and change it and edit it and go. And so it's just that's my biggest takeaway, I think.
Amazing. And final advice, what would you tell a friend who is choosing their next art trip?
I would say just do it. Because quite honestly, I knew I was putting myself outside of my comfort zone. While I've been painting for 3 years, I never had anything much before that. No drawing, no other painting really to speak of. And so to be able to put myself outside my comfort zone, and the first painting or two, I didn't have one thing hardly on my paper. But what I realized was it didn't matter. I was learning so much. And by the end of it, I was actually painting pretty well. So I think the biggest encouragement I can give anybody is don't hesitate, just do it.
Thank you so
Beautiful.
much for this. It was really beautiful to hear, and we had several comments in the chat from people who said that they smiled at your words and they recognized this and they agreed, and that was so sweet. So thank you so much for sharing that with so much warmth. A beautiful, beautiful thing. So thank you so much, Beth.
Sure.
And if you feel inspired by this, put a plus in the chat. And if you're curious to explore what it would be like to dive into an artistic journey such as this, then just put a plus in the chat. And for those of you who are eager to start painting, you can now bring up your equipment, or if you're wanting to take notes, this is the moment to do that. Because in just 1 minute we will start painting. And I also, before that, want to let you know that today we will open a limited enrollment for Nicola's offline workshop, and this one is going to be in Vietnam. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Can you help me with that, Nick?
Yeah, Hoi An.
Hoi, Hoi, Hoi An.
Hoi An, yes.
Hoi An. Hoi An. Hoi An. And it's very limited number of spots, and those who make a full payment, they will be given priority for this event. So if you are eager, just know that this is opening right now. And oh, we have one more thing before we start painting, and that is a question, and this is such an important question for those of us who are used to painting from reference photo. How do we choose what to paint en plein air?
Yes, that's a very good question. I think that, yeah, as I say, scenes that evoke an emotion. I think what I was saying before of wanting to capture a moment, tell a story. That's something that is exciting to me. I think that's what you want to bring back and share, your paintings with someone, because you've captured some sort of emotion or story. So when you're choosing what to paint, it's about having the good foundation in place, structures, compositional ideas, where's the focal point? Some of these concepts in watercolor that we can study and practice together. And then from that, you build the complexity, build the emotion, the tone, and all those other things. So composition, yeah, choosing what to paint, very important, and that's what we need to practice on as artists, and we can work on that together.
And then we have some other comments here that moments that capture time of day or time of season, and that is something that you share so beautifully in your artwork. You really use the watercolor techniques to capture that sense of time and sense of fleeting time, which is so beautiful. And then we have subjects with a human presence or atmosphere. So either human presence or atmosphere or end or both. And then art that draws, or a scene that draws viewer into a scene, a space. Do you have any comments on those aspects?
Yes, yeah. So I mean, you're capturing a time of day. We're thinking about the color of the sky. Is it morning? Is it evening? Is it the heat of the day? And there's this really strong, sharp shadows. So there's so many different uh, things that we can use in the landscape that creates not just emotion, but the senses. It evokes the feelings of the senses. Maybe the smoke, or just the sharp reflections of the rain. You can feel cold, you can feel warm, you can feel like it's a very crisp day. So many different ways of doing that. But if you can capture that on paper, you're expressing yourself in a beautiful way.
Wonderful. So thank you so much for those inspiring words. And we have comments here in the chat. I want to say that to you, Beth, that Nina says, Beth, I loved your comments and I have never done plein air. Really want to do this now from your comments. So this was inspiring both for those who have never experienced this and for people who have experienced the same thing that you did. And I just wanted you to know that, Elizabeth, so that you can take that to heart.
Thank you.
Yeah. And now it's time to explore these things. And we're going to explore a specific beautiful scene with lots of dramatic sky and lighting. How can we use this as a way to prepare ourselves for plein air painting, Nick? The thing that we're going to do today.
Yeah, so I think this painting is, well, first of all, it's a scene of Hoi An in Vietnam. Hoi An is a beautiful ancient town, which is basically on the mouth of the river, between the sea and the river. So it's got the sea, it's got the river going through it, and there's mountains in the distance. But it's a beautiful sort of old colonial architecture, but mixed in with this Vietnamese temples and things. So great place. I digress. That's not the question. The question is how we're going to use it. So I love Hoi An. So this is a snapshot in time. So it's a good example because this painting, this reference, is a fleeting moment. You've got the sun hitting some of the clouds high up in the sky, and it's sort of late in the day, and that maybe there's a storm brewing, and so sometimes when you're outdoors, you just need to take the photo, do the sketch. You need to just capture it in a very quick way, fresh, quick, and then build it maybe back in the studio. And I just wanted to show that if you are out on location, you will be able to take these types of photos. Now, what's interesting with this one here is not just the light on the clouds, but then below it, the story, the human story, is told. So we've got this epic, nature doing its thing. We've got the clouds, we've got the sky happening, and it's getting stormy. And then just right below at the bottom, you've got the boats on the water, just everyday life going on as usual. And that's really, just a nice story to tell, and compositional idea that we can practice together.
So, such a beautiful reference. We have a question from Murthy. Hello, Nick. Do you edit your reference images that you take like in a tool, as a tool?
As a tool. Yeah, sometimes if I've overexposed, with the camera, or I've or on my iPhone. I think iPhone, photos can be very overexposed anyway. So you just have to reduce the exposure, or increase the black point. Stuff like minor changes. I don't change the colors or the, I don't put it into Photoshop and go crazy with it. It's just simple things. If I've not captured it with the photo and I can see, what it is in real life and what I want to do, I'll try and bring it to that a bit closer.
And since you are traveling, we're gonna do this in this way. So I'm gonna hand it over to you now, Nick, to share the process with all of us. And we're gonna start with a sketch before we take a break.
Yes, great. So, yeah, I mean, we need to have our paper ready. So if you get your paper ready, we'll get painting later. But what we'll do is we'll start with the sketch. All you need is a pencil. I'm using a 4B, so quite soft. And you want to just think about the composition. And I've sort of spoken about the reasons why I like this particular composition. But when you're actually drawing it out, you've just got to really think about shapes. So what am I doing there? I'm just getting in the idea of where I want the horizon line. So we need to separate these, this complex scene into these simple ideas of river, landscape with the houses, and then sky. And so you want to get that ratio right. If you want to bring more impact to the sky, you then bring the horizon down lower. And that's essentially what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to bring down the horizon line pretty low. Like, that the, the the actual photo is even more extreme because I really wanted to tell that story and make sure that I was bringing that moment back with me. So yeah, basically draw in the horizon line. Try and keep things very straight. Um, Draw in a line for the bottom of the landscape, and then maybe just try and, as you can see here, just filling in some of the houses and bits and pieces, trees, palm trees that you can see on the building line, you could say, the top of the landscape area. But it's all very small, and I'm not pressing too hard. And I'm also not really caring too much about specific detail because the story is really in the sky and maybe, of the boats, the boat just passing through. So that landscape bit, you could spend quite a lot of time bigging it up and, making it this grand thing, but it's not the story of the day so much. The only thing that it does help with is tone. It's very dark there, so that's quite nice. So yeah, I'm drawing this boat in. I'm just trying to now tell the story. I've got my the spacing right. I haven't touched the sky yet. I don't need to yet because um, if you've got the actual ratios of where the river is and the landscape is, then you can just know that the sky will be put in later. So I'm just putting this detail in now, and then I'll make some sort of guiding lines. There you go, guiding lines into the sky. Notice how I hold my pencil. I'm really not trying to think about detail, and I really would suggest that. Um, Not only is it good to practice this because then you get better at it, but you actually don't want to just be holding the pencil really close. If you hold it so close, you will draw a very tight, maybe claustrophobic pencil sketch. And if you do that, well, then your painting is more likely to be tight and rigid and less free. So if you can get into the practice of using your pencil in this way, you will sketch more freely, and then that will translate into painting more freely. Um, so a few notes in the sky. So yeah, again, think about shapes. You've got that darkness at the bottom there. You've got that middle bit, and then you've got, of course, the white part of the clouds, or white and yellow where the sun is hitting. Um, and that's sort of maybe the icing on the cake of this painting, you could say. Um, it creates the contrast between an angelic sky and then like a broody lower storm. So just think about it with regards to shapes. You want that, on the left, you've got a bit of cloud coming up through all the way to the top of the painting. And then top right, you've got that nice blue bit. So think when you're sketching out, think how much of the blue sky am I going to put in? Where does the central part fall, and then the blue just goes on. So you can play around with your shapes. At the end of the day, that's exactly what they are. You've got one shape for river, one shape for the landscape. Maybe you could say one shape for the very dark, stormy cloud bit, which connects to the rest of that darker cloud area. So that's 1, 2, 3. And then you've got blue of the sky, 4. And maybe you've got the other one, maybe 2 more. One, the white areas, 5, and then the rest of it, 6. So 6 shapes. And if you can think of it like that and really try to connect within those shapes, make them very strong and done in a free way. So don't just spend a lot of time drawing in one of the cloud shapes. Just make sure that you can just move your way through that shape, connect it all together, maybe create some changes in tone along the way. But if you think of things in regards to shapes, you're off to a good start because you're simplifying. So I've gone in with some of those cloud shapes, and now I've gone back and I'm pressing harder. You see, I'm holding pencil a bit closer now. I've got some final details I want to add in before I start painting. And once you've got that shape in, it's about now, building a bit more of the scene. Most of this will be a silhouette, very dark landscape shape there. So what have I done? I've looked at what is actually there, and then maybe I've shifted a few things around. And so that's really what I do. And I'm going to be wetting the back, so you can see that I'm getting ready to wet the back. I think we might do that just before we start painting. So they will hold off from wetting the back just now, and we'll give a bit of time to wet the back later on. But it's good to know if you haven't got your stuff ready, you don't have a big brush and some clean water. When we get back to painting, you can then do this step. Why wetting the back? Well, wetting the back prolongs the drying time. So that gives us more time to make our washes, add wet into wet, add some changes in tone, and the paper is going to dry a lot more slowly. And it's actually really useful, especially if you're outdoors and you're in a very dry environment. You've got to try and make sure that you're really controlling the humidity, or not controlling the humidity. Okay, that's impossible. Understanding the humidity and then controlling your paper. How wet is your paper? How moist is it? If you can make it more moist, then of course it's gonna dry more slowly. And sometimes you need that if you're painting outdoors on a hot day. So wetting the back is really critical. Hot day or windy day, incredibly important. So if you're not familiar with this technique, I recommend trying it out. And of course, it just depends on what you're doing it depends on the humidity, right? So if you're in the UK, for example, trying to paint outdoors, the last thing you do is want to paint the back, because in England it's very humid outside. Usually it's cloudy, a lot of moisture in the air. It'll never dry, and that's something that the artists, we have to deal with in the UK when we're painting outside. But for other people, it's a game changer, wetting the back. So actually, we spent quite a lot of time on this step. So have your setup for when we get back into it. We'll tape it down after this, and then we'll get into the preparation with the colors. So don't do this just yet, but we'll get into it in a second.
Maybe we should move on and talk a little bit before we do the final step here.
Yes, sounds good.
So let's see. We had some comments. We had a comment from Millie, who really wants to learn to paint clouds, so that's going to be perfect. And now we're also going to talk about some other practical tips to overcome plein air painting challenges, and we've already discussed the humid aspect. So if we're painting a rainy day, we might handle our paper completely differently from when we're painting on a hot, sunny day at noon. And I think this is something that many of us consider is a studio thing, that we even consider the paper surface and then we just take it as it goes when we're outdoors and it doesn't turn out like we want. And then we're like, plein air painting is too difficult, it just doesn't turn out nicely. Could you share some more words of encouragement that we do have a little bit of control or a little bit of influence, so to speak, on the elements?
Well, actually, yeah, you can take a lot of inspiration from it, because we do have a lot of tools at our disposal. We've got the ability to wet the back, we've got the ability to spray and keep things wet. Even just simply understanding the conditions around us and the state of our paper can really give us a lot of power, a lot of control over what we're doing. So yeah, I think if you understand that aspect of watercolor, I think it's the next level, it's the next step up, because then you're not at the mercy of wherever you're painting. And if you have tried to paint outdoors for a while, or maybe let's say a few times, and you've just had wildly different results, and you just thought, what's going on? I'm using the same paper, same paints, same everything, but it's just not happening for me today. Well, maybe it's because the conditions are just completely the opposite. And I mean, we can talk about the beauty and magic of watercolor, for days. It's an incredible medium, but it's also at the mercy of the elements, maybe more so than other media as well. And that's to our benefit and excitement, but it's something to understand and make sure we're in control.
Thank you so much for that. And now we have actually covered one of the 6 factors that we have here in front of us. So we have weather conditions. That's the number 5. It's a big one. And then we have 5 more, and let me read them so that you can comment on them. One of them is choosing a subject where the scene isn't too overwhelming, or knowing how to handle any scene. What are your thoughts on picking a subject in regards to the concept of overwhelm?
Yes, I think that's because our eyes are so great, and we can see so much when we're outdoors, and you may have that experience of going outdoors, seeing a vast landscape, and then you take some photos, you come back home and you look at them and you think, gosh, they really do not tell that story. And I think that going outdoors, you have to become very composed with your idea of what you want to paint. So that's thinking about composition, as we said, finding the focal point, finding the story, even just separating your painting into background, middle ground, foreground. Those steps, they seem basic, but they're difficult to do when you go from painting from a photo, which some of these structures are already in place in a photo. But when you're out in a landscape, your eyes are so strong. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges is how do you frame the painting when you're outdoors and you've got so much around you. You've got a 360 view sometimes. That's not an A4 paper, photo. So, or that's not a photo on your phone.
And then we have already almost talked about composition and focal point, because they really go into what you just mentioned. And then even though we have chosen a subject, we know the composition, we have decided the focal point, or we have decided how to interpret it, it can change because the light, the shadows, if there comes a cloud or anything, people walk away from their spot, etc., etc. What are your thoughts on the changing nature of the outdoors?
Yeah, I think if you're lucky and you're in California or you're in some south of France in the summer or whatever, then yeah, great. You got sun away, and sometimes the shadows will be there. But for the rest of us, it's a tricky place outdoors. I've experienced a lot painting in Asia now, but in the UK before, and the English weather is changes so much that I have little faith outdoors that the lights, if I come across a sunny scene and it's rolling clouds, I'm not going to keep. Yeah, it's never going to stay. Um, and that's maybe why that's the power of finding a moment and then just trying to capture that very quickly. So take your photo, get your sketch. Do a sketch of the composition that you saw, and maybe that means doing a very quick color study as well before you start your main painting. I think you shouldn't just go in and we talk about this in the plein air workshops we do, but you want to get some information from the land before you even start your main painting, because if the weather changes, you're at the mercy of your memory.
That is so true, and so more so in certain climates.
Yeah.
And then you cannot have all of your equipment. We might talk about that during the demonstration or later on. So we need to choose and organize our equipment. And then there might be a sense of embarrassment due to people staring at you, feeling that it's difficult to focus, feeling that this is not what I'm used to have a sentence on that aspect of plein air painting.
Yeah, of course. I mean, especially if you're doing street scenes or cityscapes, you can feel a bit self-conscious. But when you're in a group, it changes completely. You're out, you're sort of protected. Everyone's got their own paintings out, and people. I mean, in a group, people, really, sometimes they're nice and come and say hello, but people give a lot of respect to artists outdoors, and actually, I'm finding, even alone, people might, be polite and ask me, but I'm not going to get crowds of people I mean, unless you're in a really, touristy area, of course, then it's like that. But it's a challenge. You have short, of course, especially if you get friendly people that talk a lot. It's really, watercolor, you have certain amounts of time to do things. And if you're, chatting with a really, really friendly person who's come to say hello, yeah, that can be difficult. But I think, yeah, painting in group is a way of bridging that, stepping into it and following the plein air workshop. I think you can generate a lot of confidence to the point where you just want to go out again on your own.
Thank you so much for sharing those tips. I hope that anyone who is curious to explore plein air painting more got inspiration. And we will paint all of the beautiful painting with that dramatic sky in a bit. Before that, we will take a little bit of an excursion together. So soon I'm going to hand it over to Nick. Before that, I'm going to tell you what's ahead of you if you feel inspired. So if you felt inspired by everything that Beth shared with us, with everything that Nick has shared with us, you will love what Artefacto has prepared for this year, for 2026. And let's walk through the destinations that we have planned for you this next year. As you can see, this is the first year that Artefacto has really gone all in on plein air because it has been so rewarding for the participants, and we want to highlight this and make it easier for you to take part of this from where you are. So if you want to go maybe 3 hours instead of 12, we will have, hopefully, maybe not if you live in Australia or New Zealand or certain, maybe not South Africa, but many of us will have different places to choose from. And as you can see, already in March here, we have Vietnam, Hoi An with Nicholas Tobias. If you're unable to join this one, you can also keep an eye out for the Oktoberfest, that's a German thing. The Cyprus experience, the offline workshop in Cyprus with Nicholas Tobias. So if you love this concept, you cannot join Vietnam. We have another coming up. And as you can see, we also have it in Turkey. This was the one we talked about yesterday with Konstantin. This is in May. Then we have Prasad. So if you are in Europe, or if you want to go to Europe, you want to go to England, to this place that so many of these artists have lived in or live in, then in England in August, Prasad will share. And yeah, you get to see the places that Nick has painted, probably. Many of them will probably be similar to where Nick is coming from, even though he is now traveling the world. And then we have another one in September in Italy with Konstantin Sterkov, so that is Konstantin's second one. Then, as I mentioned previously, in October we have a Cyprus offline workshop with Nicholas Tobias. And if you want to be further west, we do have a special, very, very new, beautiful offline workshop in Mexico with Teralyn Devroy in the late October and early November. So this can be a very magical year for people wherever you happen to be. And today we are welcome you to the March workshop in Vietnam, and we're gonna take a trip now in Imaginary Lane and explore this before we start painting. And I'm gonna hand it over to you now, Nick, to explore, to help us understand what this is all about. So this is on 21st to 28th of March 2026 in Hoi An, offline plein air workshop with Nicholas Tobias. This has limited number spots here, so 16 spots. That's how many we have. And this unforgettable journey will fill you with inspiration, energy, elevator skills, and artistic vision, and just so much loving things that we heard from Beth, and also instill confidence for independent outdoor paintings. So it's a beautiful, wonderful trip, and I can imagine this is going to be amazing to do this together with Nick. This is a 6-day workshop in a gorgeous location. You paint every day at a new location. It's going to be up to 12 paintings in total. You receive direct personal feedback from Tobias on each of your finished paintings. And of course, you gain new practical skills of plein air, level up your artistic vision, and get to immerse yourself in this experience with a master at plein air painting and interacting with your fellow students. And the first day is March 21st. It's going to be a arrival and a welcome dinner. So that is more of just getting together and getting ready. Do you have anything you want to share about the first arrival day?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's similar to the one we did in Cyprus, where we have the first day, everyone can just, fly into Da Nang, which is half an hour away from Hoi An. So you get your 45 minutes from the airport. You come in. We have a nice welcoming dinner at the hotel we'll be at. It's all going to be very relaxed. We'll we'll speak. We'll plan out the following 8 days. Get comfortable and get ready for some serious painting.
Wonderful. And the second day, that's when the painting starts. So this is all about composition and storytelling, rice fields plus temple. So it looks like two different subjects here and some flowers on the side. What do we learn on this day? Where do you go?
Yes. Okay. So this is the first day. I mean, I like to do the workshops with regards to, painting themes. So the first, as you said, composition and storytelling, starting from the beginning, how to design your painting. So this day really is we will have, about an hour and a half in the morning to go through concepts, ideas, make sure that we're on the same wavelength. And we'll have some challenges in this workshop, some tasks in the first day, which will simplify us. We might not utilize every part of our setup or brushes or whatever. We will build up together to a more complex, paintings later on. But so this day is about working with those foundations of watercolor. Where do we go? We start off in the rice fields. Hoi An is this special, ancient town with this architecture and markets and things. But we've also got, rice fields around it with water buffalo and great locations to paint from. So we start off in a place, the Chillax Eatery, Hang Out and Eatery. It's quite a funny name. It's really just got great views over surrounding rice fields, and it's so relaxed. It feels like something out of a Studio Ghibli film. So we start there in the morning, and then we head over into Hoi An. Just on the outskirts, there's the Temple of Confucius, and Confucius was a great soul, and the energy of this temple is very lovely. It just feels good around there, and it has an area around it, and it's not it's not directly in the heart of Hoi An. You're not going to have crowds of people surrounding you. No, this is outside it. We have our painting area around, and we'll give ourselves the space to paint. Really lovely architecture, Vietnamese architecture, but not in a hectic environment.
Wonderful. So that is just the first day, and then we move on to the second painting day, or the third day all in all, so March 23rd. Tone and depth, boats, and rooftop architecture. What do we explore on this day?
Yes, so we are going, but yeah, basically the next step is building on composition and storytelling is to look into our use of tone, getting the values right, trying to create some depth with regards to foreground, middle ground, background. So yeah, basically building up these concepts again, not trying to paint the most complicated scenes. We're just trying to do not interesting paintings that we have the opportunity to paint koi fish, just get in those different tones in, or it's a river scene where we're going to be in this cafe which has these koi fish, but then of course we can head out onto the river. There's a nice space for us, a part of the cafe, but there's also just the actual street there, and you can paint boats on the water, or there's a bridge as well. So building up our complexity with the subjects we choose. And then, of course, a rooftop architecture. Well, that is going to be more complicated. That is a view from an area within the old town of Hoi An, bustling life down below, but we will have this space above to look down and do an aerial view, and it will be very exciting. I love, Hoi An architecture is stunning, but then it's not just about the architecture, it's about the life within the streets that we'll see because of this aerial view. So that's going to be very fun to do.
Thank you for taking us on this adventure first in the imagination, and now we move on to some extraordinary scenes on March 24th. Atmosphere and mood, marble mountains. This looks almost unbelievable to my eyes.
Yeah, well, the Marble Mountains is a special place outside Hoi An. It's really not that far, and they have quarried marble in these mountains and created the most beautiful set of cave systems, and there's a temple up top and you can walk through these stairs and pathways and different levels and underground, overground. I mean, it's a very beautiful place to visit. So we're going to do that and keep that as a star of the show for the day. In the morning, we're going to be painting a view of the mountain from the ground. So we can pick our own. There's some water there. There's the mountains. There's the temple on top of the mountains that you can see in that photo. So we can paint them, paint that scene. Or I shouldn't say that exact scene, but a scene of the Marble Mountains. And then we're going to have some time actually to go up into the paid area, because of course it's a temple complex. And we'll go with our sketchbooks, and it's basically an attraction to go and enjoy the history of this area and the beauty of these craftsmen to craft what they did in this beautiful mountain system. So we'll do some temple sketching. You can do architecture, you can do Buddhist or different types of statues, that they have there, Kuan Yin and other beautiful, impressive statues. So that's going to be a lot of fun to do.
I just want to mention, because I just realized that all of the questions that might come up when we visit one of these places, how do we paint this, and even getting there, knowing where to go, you get the guidance of the organization, of Nick's experience, and also there is a feedback session on the paintings every single day. And if you have questions, the team is there for you, and Nick is there to support you. So this is gonna be like a stretch. This is gonna be exploring completely new things, growing as an artist, as a human being. It sounds and looks beautiful. And on the 5th day, another extraordinary place. March 25, free day and personal story painting. What does that mean? You choose your adventure. So this is more open, but it looks like there are beautiful places to visit if, to your heart's content. What are your words on this freer day, Nick?
Yes. Following the previous workshop that we did, we thought if you're coming to Vietnam, you're going to want a day off. You're going to want some time because there's so many options to places to visit and things to do. Maybe it's visiting Barnard Hills, where you've got that Golden Bridge, and there's the French Village there, which is stunning architecture, which you can see there. Yeah, French Village in the bottom, colonial era French made village, which became the hub for the French in this period, and then it was abandoned and remained derelict, and then it's been built up again into this massive sort of area of different activities and leisure areas and things. And so you can go there. You can go. You can choose to have a beach day. It could be gorgeous weather there, and there's lovely beaches. You might choose just to be around Hoi An and do something more practical, like cookery classes are really famous in Hoi An. You've got pottery, woodwork. I mean, handcraft is one of the greatest things that's happening in Hoi An at the moment. One of the inspirations for why I like to live there is because I see so much of things made by hand. So you can choose your free day, and then when we're talking about personal story painting, well, the challenge for this day will be to come up with your own painting. It doesn't have to be large. Maybe you just want some time off from painting. Maybe it's just a sketch in your sketchbook or whatever. But you're basically capturing a moment for us to share with the group, and we'll have a feedback session as well, as usual, and we'll share each other's adventures, what they went on to, what did you capture and what did you do. So I think it's good to have a free day like this just to digest the first 3 days of painting before we hit the more complexity in the next days.
It sounds like a beautiful place to visit. I'm already imagining going there. Like it looks so special and so beautiful. And after that day, you also paint, you also get feedback. So here you get to try your wings painting on your own, and you get feedback on that as well. And then you are guided into color and energy, river reflections, and beach scene. So a bit of a cozier theme on day 6 here.
Yes, yeah. So we will think about color and energy. Color, because we want to play around with color temperature. We want cool areas of our painting and warm, and in hot scenes we want to exaggerate that a lot. But also, its color can be used to create emotion. So, as we go from day to day, we want to build on these ideas: composition, tone, atmosphere, and mood, and then getting in color and energy, and then finishing off as we'll see with visual language. And so building blocks, and now we want to think about color. Maybe we think about granulation with our color. Maybe it's about our brush marks, and actually thinking about how we can economize and just make bigger marks and more bold marks. So that is where we become more painterly. Hopefully we can do that together. Where we're going to go? Well, we've got the river. We've got a beautiful place booked. It's next to the river. We've got a whole setup. We'll have a lovely lunch there, and they're very lovely people, welcoming. It's a gorgeous location for us in that first photo up there. And then the second one is the beach. We'll see. We will do a beach scene. We've got palm trees. We've got probably people there. Maybe some people, as in Cyprus when we went earlier in the year. Some people just love painting, sketching people, and the good thing about Hoi An is there's plenty of people around. It's a large tourist area because of its rich culture and as I said, there's handcrafted items and lessons and things. So the beach should have people, subjects. It should have warmth, cool. It should have palm trees. You can paint the sea. So lots to do on this day.
Thank you for sharing that. And looks like this place has a lot of different energies: the mountains, the rice fields, the temples, the rivers, the beaches, the palm trees. So much beautiful things. And on the 7th day, March 27th, the theme is visual language, old town architecture plus water buffalo. So a completely different energy again. Do you have some words on this day, Nick?
Yeah, so bringing it all together, we think way more closely about our brush marks. Have we got a visual style? Are we developing? We can maybe look back on the first day until this day and think, what's changed within our painting? How are our marks changing? Coming away with our own style, or at least, I think I've said before in a previous Zoom that you can't really, create your own style. It comes from the heart. It just develops over time, and it's just about becoming aware of what it is. It's not even about, really creating it, trying to be stylish. You have your own vision, and as you get better at watercolor, it will just come out. So maybe we can think about that, feel that at the end of this, on this last day of painting. So old town architecture in the morning, we're going out into a very central square and doing quite a typical scene of Hoi An. We've got the architecture, we've got sort of promenade area, and then we've got boats on the water. And we'll go in the morning. It gets very lively at night, but in the morning it should be calm. It should be peaceful. Maybe we see some boats, and maybe it's fishermen, or maybe it's just simple boats harbored in. but we'll be in the main area, so it's more about yeah, a, a complete scene of land, architecture, maybe some people, and then river and boats. I'm trying to make a beautiful scene of that. And then water buffalo. Well, yeah, these rice fields have a lot of water buffalo. As you can see there, the farmers actually sit on the water buffalo, and you can actually take photos if you want to organize that for yourself. But I think it's exciting to paint other parts of life, having a subject that is just very different. And water buffalo are slow but very majestic, big creatures. And in the backdrop of rice fields, I think it's a fun subject to do.
Thank you so much for that. And after this day, it's time for departure on March 28th and also getting your diplomas. At least that's what it looks like on this photo. And hugging goodbye and just bringing all of these wonderful memories into your practice. And speaking of that, we have some more information, but we will also very soon be painting again. So now you've experienced a bit of the emotional, the locations, the energy, and now we're gonna turn that into a painting experience as well. So if you are painting along, this is when you can wet the back, and when you have done that, you can tape up the paper to your board so that we get to experience painting with Nicholas as well when we have all of these the locations in mind, because this subject that we're painting is from this place. So just immerse yourself in that sense of painting with Nicholas in this beautiful place. And if you do that, you may do that if you're painting along, this is when you can do that. And also, to make this plein air painting experience much smoother, more comfortable, and feeling really safe for you, we have also added 2 online sessions in Zoom before the event with Nicholas Tobias, where you get to prepare, discuss organizational things, practice together, ask any questions that you may have about art materials, because people will bring their own art materials. So that is one of the things that you might have questions about, and of course the team is there to support you, and Nicholas is also there to support you with that. There's also a participants chat, in a WhatsApp chat, where you get to know each other, where Nick is there to support you, our organizational team is there to support you. So if you have any ideas, tips, inspiration, or questions, there is a group to share, inspire, and get support, and support each other as well, both before and during this beautiful trip. And the thing about plein air painting is that you don't only paint along with someone's demo, you create your own artwork. So when you have painted this and when you have taken reference photos by yourself, you can either just enjoy the paintings that you have painted on this trip, or you can enjoy the experience of painting them again in your studio, and you can create an entire exhibition from this experience if you choose to, which is beautiful. So different from our other learning experiences, because the references will be yours. So if you want to join this trip, here is an overview of the information. We will talk more about this after we have painted. It's time to paint now, but you see that this is an incredible experience for $1,790 or €1,590. So much support and inspiration. So I wanted to let you know that before we start painting. And if you want to learn more or join, you can scroll down, and underneath this video there is a button called join. Let's see what it's called. Join workshop in Vietnam, that you can press to learn more. And if you have any questions and you want to book a spot, but you're not really prepared to pay all of this at once, you might have more questions, you can also book a place now for only €100 or dollars, and that booking fee will be excluded from the final payment or refunded if spots are out of stock. And then you can scroll to the place where it says book a place after you clicked join workshop in Vietnam. With that being said, I hope that you're prepared with your paper, the water, that you have wet the back, that it's taped up, because now it's time to dive in to this experience with Nicholas. And I'm gonna hand it over to you now, Nick, to share the painting process.
Yes, great. Thanks very much, Hannah. So let's go for it. What have we got? We've got to prepare ourselves for the washes. So, we're going to need some warmth. We're going to need some blues. So what I'm doing now is I'm basically just getting some yellow and some red, mixing up a bit of this sort of warmer color. So I've got orange there, and I'm going a bit more yellow because actually the cloud is pretty yellow. And then I go in with a bit of blue, and I'm just going to make, using the three primaries. You've got blue, red, yellow. I'm using, cobalt blue, quinacridone rose, and new gamboge. You can use whatever colors you want, but the idea is basically to prepare a bit of a yellowy, orangey color mix you can see below, and then above it, it's just a bit more gray. We're thinking about the grays that we have, and I'm going basically from warm to cool. So, a bit of gray, warm gray, cool gray, and now thinking more about actually what's going to be there in the sky, which is a sky blue, whatever, rich sort of cobalt blue. So I like to prepare before I start. Having this is so helpful because when you put this on the paper, you're saving yourself, you know, having to think in the moment as much. So good preparation always leads to a good wash. That's what I say. It doesn't mean mixing everything up. I'll keep on mixing as I go through. It's just to have a nice start, just to help you to have that foundation. And that's what I like. So we have that mixed. And now you can see that I've got some clean water, a clean brush, and I'm just looking at the reference. Where do I need a bit of wet into wet? Where do I want sharp edges? Well, not in many places because it's cloudy, right? So in some of the edges of our shapes, remember I said we've got the blue of the sky is one shape. You've got that white part of the clouds or orangey part of the cloud is the second shape, and you've got a bit on the left, and then you've got the one below it. So I'm thinking about the lines between those big shapes in the sky now. As you can see there, some of them, I don't want them to be hard. I want them to be nice and soft. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just wet those areas where the shapes connect, and that means that they'll go from one into the other in a nice soft way. So sprinkle a bit of that. Keep where the white is, where the sun hits the cloud. Keep that a bit sharp. You can put a bit of water around the edges of it, but in that area, just keep it a bit sharp because you're going to want to cut with the blue around the white area. And you saw me do a little bit earlier. Sometimes I splatter some clean water as well. So once I've prepared the color on the palette, I want to prepare the paper. And I wet the back, it's taped down, and then I'll prepare the paper with clean water. And as you can see here, I can pick up some of that yellow, some of that orange, and just let it drop in. So I'm trying to find the color in the cloud area to start off with. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to find the light orangey parts, and then we're going to build the blue around that. And then obviously the other part of the clouds around that. So we need to sort of get in a bit of color, a bit of tone into the light part of the clouds. And then we're going to cut in with some of that stronger blue just to form it. So negative painting, if you're familiar with that concept. And then we'll work our way down into the thicker clouds. And of course, below that is the landscape. But we don't have to think about the landscape or the river anytime soon. In a cloudscape like this, where most of it's the clouds, the first wash is very key, making sure you have wet into wet, like we do with the wet paper and the wet brush that we've applied clean water with. And we go from there. So we have wet, clean water, and then we're building in some color into it. Maybe, yeah, you see that a bit of this gray as well, just around some of the orange. So going from white of the paper, which is wet, melting in some orangey yellow into that. And then away from that, we go into a bit more of a gray. And so what does that do? You're creating a gradient of color. and also sort of a gradient with regards to value, with regards to thickness. So it's helpful, and this is a great way of finding the light first, developing sort of, part of the star of the show, this light part of the sky, which is where the sun is hitting. Doing that is really great as a first step on location as well. When you're outdoors and you see this, take the photo, do the quick sketch. If it's still there, yeah, do a small study where you're doing exactly what we're doing first. Do the white light part, which has orangey tones first, and then you can cut around and build around that later on. So this is we've got to do. We've just got to build a bit of complexity in this light area, and then cut, as you can see there, now cut in with some of that sort of darker tone. It's still quite a light tone, right? Think about how strong that part top left is compared with maybe the bottom, and the bottom is very dark and moody. So we want it to be darker, of course, because it's not going to be in the sun, this part on the left. But at the same time, it needs to be more, a mid-tone color, not too strong, just sort of milky consistency rather than sort of really creamy or thick, It's got to be this nice, sort of smooth. And in a way, this is sort of the underwash. In a way, we're just building this blue cloud area, first of all, and we can thicken it up, wet into wet later on. So even, I think the tone here is not as dark as it will become, but we're building some of these shapes in now and just really making sure that we're connecting the blue sky with that part of the cloud in the sun. That's the most important connection right now. So we're not even thinking about the dark blue yet. We don't need to, because that's going to be a hard edge. But we need to connect the light shape with blue. So I'm not thinking too much about exactly what it is there, the detail of the cloud. I'm just building some more complexity, making sure that I'm getting in some differences in tone. So see what I'm doing.
A couple of questions here. Dina asks if you can repeat the colors, and Millie asks if you sprayed the top of the paper at all with water before starting.
Yes. So when you wet the back, it will buckle. So what I do is I give it a spray on the front, just a few sprays, and it should rebound as well and sort of and stretch out. So I do spray that. At the moment, because you wet the back in this part, I don't feel the need to. I've got time. We've got time. It's where I am, I'm painting in a quite humid environment, and therefore I know even more than being, in the UK indoors, it's going to dry less. If you feel like it's started to dry, give it a few sprays. Nice sprays is obviously good, great to do. And what am I using? Cobalt blue, quinacridone rose, and new gamboge, primarily those colors, and they are the three primaries: blue, sort of pinky red, and a yellow. So again, connections of shapes. This area was wet, so it's melting together, which is quite nice. But I'm trying to gain some thickness blue of the sky, and this is going to be done, and we're going to be painting negatively, right? So we're going to be cutting around the white area, make sure that it's dry. If it's very wet in that area, well, I would suggest getting a bit of tissue and just making sure that the very edge of it is dry. And then what you can do is, you can see here what I'm doing right now. I'm just cutting around that area. And you can see I'm going to build the actual form of the cloud in a second. So part of that top, which I just touched there, is wet into wet. So it's melting nice with the grey part on the left. And then that bit below is in the center is dry. So as I cut through this, it stays. The blue just simply stays. And that is really, just understanding how wet your paper is in different areas and using it to your advantage. So that's what I'm doing. I think I probably exaggerated that little area there, but I just wanted to get that nice that that nice yeah, light bit there. So that's what I mean by negative painting. We're just using the blue to shape around the white and frame it. And here I realize I don't need, that white there too much anyway. So again, trying to create some wet into wet effects by doing that. So you can see that we're starting to coming together. You have to be careful in this part about the line at the bottom of the wash, right in the middle of the dark, stormy clouds. Make sure that there's a bit of a bead at the bottom, so that you've got a bit more time to go in and cut through those sharp lines. But if you do, and you can see that I do at the bottom there, I have a bit of time to work in the middle here, and that's what I'm doing. So you've got got a bit of time. You framed around it. Now add some more detail. So what does that mean? Maybe you want to go a bit more orange if it's washed out. Maybe it's in a thicker amount of pigment. You can do anything you want here, but just make sure that it's you haven't got that much water on your brush. So you're putting in a brush which has more pigment and less water than the other washes that you've done. If you do it that way, you're not going to get any cauliflowering. So just make sure it's a bit thicker and drier, and then you can add into it. See what I've done? I've just I realized that even though it was realistic, that shape of the cloud, it wasn't looking that good. So what I've done is I've got a bit of tissue there and just spread it out a bit more and opened up that cloud to be a bit rounder. And to me, that's more good looking. So, again, you have your moment, the emotion you want to give. That doesn't necessarily translate into copying exactly what you've seen. Sometimes you just feel like you need to make some few changes, which is what we are doing together. So again, yeah, a bit of yellow, orange, just getting in some stronger color there, just to add some oomph before we get into the stronger darks below. Any more questions?
The only question was regarding cauliflower effect. Sorry, I'm eating. But you answered that exactly when that question was asked. So that was perfect.
Oh, well, there you go. Beautiful. Yeah, cauliflowering, yeah, as long as you're using less water and a bit more pigment, even if it's slightly, it doesn't have to be extremes. It's fine. But when in doubt, if you're worried about cauliflowering, because that's happening a lot, make your mix, and then with a bit of tissue, just dab your brush before you actually put it onto the paper, and you're just going to be drying it slightly, reducing some of the water in the brush, and 9 times out of 10, you won't have a problem because it'll be fine with the tissue. So try give that a go. Right. So I've got the blues going well. The blue of the sky, the highlighted area is going well. I think it's time to now build some of this darkness. And again, you don't want to go full out darkness at the top there. It's sort of more of a purpley blue. So I've got cobalt blue there, I've got black widow rose. I'm adding in a bit of that yellow, that orangey yellow into it, so that it's not completely blue. It's a bit, that's working with grays. But we're working with blue grays. So all the 3 primaries are in my washes, but I'm using much more blue and much more purple. I mean, red, which makes purple. So because the cloud bit that we did before is drying a little bit, and we can take this time to build some of these other parts on top of it, as you see I'm doing there. So what's this? This is less water, more pigment, and I'm just building wet into wet, but it's drying enough that it's going to stay there. And when I have the top there, you just want to go with a big flat brush and just move across. Really good not to use small brushes when possible. So as you can see, even though some of this detail is quite particular, I'm still using my flat brush. I don't want to give any more information than is required. So I use as big a brush as possible. So as you can see, I've dropped in that darker bit of clouds on top of it. And because it's thicker in pigment, it's not spreading out so much. It's gonna remain there. It will, of course, spread out a bit, and some parts are wetter than others. Maybe on the left, it's going to melt quite a lot. I might have to reapply. But in that central area, it's sticking quite well. And now is the time to go in deeper, go in darker. So we've got a bit more of that stronger cobalt blue. We've got some quinacridone rose into that to make it a bit more of a purpley color. And of course, as I said, we've got a bit of the sort of yellowy orange parts as well, just to keep it more grey rather than straight up blue. If you use the three primaries in every color that you do, even if it's mostly purple and there's not much yellow in it, even if you put a little bit of that same yellow in, you're going to create color harmony. It means that every wash that you do, every color that you choose, it's just working with the same colors in different quantities. And that is the best way to keep it looking good. So, as you can see, building. So we've gone from lights and we're going to dark. Again, big brush. Don't be too fiddly. It's drying. Hopefully it's still wet like it is in mine on my paper. If you're struggling with it, give it some sprays, not too close together, but maybe it's a good time to say that water is important in watercolor, but paper is so important. If you're finding that everything's drying very quickly and it's not melting the way that it's doing so with my paper, then you know that maybe the paper you're using is not up to scratch. It's not the best for watercolor. If you wet the back, you should have time, like I do, to add in this complexity and have freedom to do so. So I would suggest, investing in the best paper you can, and then not investing as much in the brushes or the paints if need be. But drying time is critical to do more complex paintings like we're doing. And as you can see, I have the time to do this. So hopefully you do too. If you don't, let me know. Maybe let me know what brand you're using, and we can have a conversation. Of course, on offline workshops, we look through materials, we see what people have got. They share their tips and for example, Beth gave me a lovely color, a Daniel Smith color, granulated color, to try out, which I was very grateful for. So you exchange ideas, you exchange tools and paints, etc. So that's one of the joys of doing this, a painting holiday. So what am I doing? I'm going in darker and thicker at the bottom there to make some deep, rich, stormy clouds. And then I'm just sort of filling in a bit below that with some water. And I'm gonna cut that in and let that run down. And that will form the very bottom of the clouds, which will be a little bit of light before getting to the landscape area. So you notice how I haven't cut through completely, because I was worried that if I did straight away, it would just run down very quickly. So I let it dry a little bit and then connect it together more in a second. So again, timing and control. These things you can learn very, very, strongly. You can become absolute masters at it. Just takes a bit of time, a bit of practice. So if you are struggling with that kind of aspect of watercolor, just know that it's all part of the journey to not be able to, things drying in different places and not understanding when to not cut through and etc. But we learn that together. We learn that together. So again, I've cut through, I've created some nice connections, and I've got a bit of time. So what do? I just look at the scene again. I look at the clouds, and I don't want to do too much. I'm not really, doing massive changes. I'm just adding it in, and there you go. See that? Just now, yeah, giving it a little bit of time. Just let that just run into the lower wash, which is slightly lighter now, and it shouldn't run down thicker. Um, and that should conclude mostly the end of the sky. A few little changes to made, but that's it, really, the sky.
At some point, Nick, it would be wonderful if you could share what paper you're using and what brushes you're using. What a question from Millie a few minutes ago. Is that a flat brush? Is that a flat brush, synthetic or natural hair? Those kinds of things, but you can blend that into the conversation any way you like.
Sure thing. Yes. Okay. So, I'll just say what we're doing now is we're preparing the river. So, what we're going to do is we're going to do the landscape once the sky is dry. You can actually do it while it's wet and wet into wet, but I think I just want a crisp skyline. So I've just kept on that sort of bluish type background layer, and I've just connected it pretty much straight away with the water. And I've gone in with basically clean water. It's a bit muddy, you can see, but it's mostly clean. And I'm now just building that into a stronger gradient. So you've got clean water where the top of the boat, where the boats are, or the bottom of the boat, I should say, for the river. And now I'm just going in at the bottom of the river with a bit of a thicker wash. I'm going to, bring that up a little bit. It's wet into wet. Try and achieve that gradient. And the trick here, I'm also framing it a little bit. So on either side, I'm just taking away a bit of the white of the paper. Just helps to frame the light and make it a bit more of a story rather than a snapshot. It comes a bit closer to a story. So just make sure that you have your gradient, right? You've got clean or clear water at the top. It's going to be a nice reflection. And then you've got a bit thicker pigment down below. And there you go, I've gone real thick. Now with your brush, make sure that you're going horizontally. See how straight the lines I'm doing are? Just make sure they're straight lines, and then you'll be onto a winner. The brush I'm using, that flat brush, is a synthetic flat brush. It's an Skoda Ultimo, I believe. Synthetic flat brush, very nice. I've got these Asian style brushes, which are natural hairs, like I'm doing here. So in this part, you've got the reflections, the ripples in the water. So when it's drying, you get in thicker pigment, less water, and you do just some marks. They've got to be horizontal, and they just got to look like ripples in the water. Don't go too crazy, and also don't really go into the very light of the river. You want to keep that reflection. You want to make sure that you've got just an indication of these ripples, and let it dry. Let it dry and become softer. See that? Just smaller as you go up to the top. Smaller, very faint. Just let that go. Don't do too much. It's so tempting to just overdo the water. So that's all we're going to do. You might want a final darkness bit, but I've done it much darker than in reality. So maybe you don't even want to do it as dark as I'm going to do it. But I just thought it would add a nice effect. Right. So synthetic brushes that I'm using. Is the flat brush, and the rest are natural fibers and natural hairs, Asian, very, very economical brushes. We're talking about 50 cents brushes, 50p, 50 euro cent, whatever you want to, whatever it is. Very simple, cheap brushes from my local art store in Vietnam. They're not fancy. The Skoda one is the most fancy. So paper this one is actually bao hong. Again, something that I can pick up in Vietnam. It's a very granulating paper, cold pressed, 300 GSM, 100% cotton paper, very lovely. and it's a lot more granulating than, for example, Arches or Saunders Waterford. Even though it's got exactly the same, cold press 300 GSM, for some reason Baohong is just a lot more granulating, which adds a bit of character as well. It's nice to do. So yeah, I'm using Baohong. I recommend Saunders Waterford. I think it's incredible. I think Arches is incredible as well. Fabriano does great, professional grade. And Baohong, I think, is great because it's not as expensive, but it's still got that professional grade quality, which I really like. So I've mixed up some thicker wash there. I've gone a bit quite warm, starting off a bit warm. It's sort of like a grey mix of browny, bluey, stuff. So I want to add in now. I think I've let it dry. So I've let it dry, and I'm just going in with the landscape, which is the sort of last thing we do before we just add in the boats and call it a day. So it's not actually, we've done the hard part of this painting, which is the sky and maybe the reflections if you're not familiar with doing that so much. But now we can relax. Now we can reap the rewards of our painting. So what do? We add in this sort of thicker wash, leave some holes. That's probably one of the biggest parts of creating a silhouette for a backdrop. You don't want to fill it all in, especially on the skyline. Below is fine. You can connect your shapes, but on the skyline, make sure it's varied. Make sure you plug some holes in. You can actually do that by dropping some water onto the paper again, and that will pick up on parts of it and create some lost and bound. So that is certainly possible. And I'm taking a bit of time here, this top part needs to be pretty, because the skyline is you could say, the gateway to the sky for humanity. That sounds very dramatic. The gateway to the sky of this painting, the connection between the land and the sky is that skyline of spires and trees and rooftops. So that is what you want to do. Just plug some holes in, and then I'm going in and I'm adding in some dark, thicker elements to it. So just below, and here I make sure you just be a bit loose with your brush marks. You've added in a bit of complexity in the skyline, and now you want to go in and give that some finishing touches, but with connections, just connecting. See that I added a bit of clean water, just a bit of sprinkle on some lost and bound in places. Just have a little sip of water. And there you go. We have some a big mark that I did, and now I'm just connecting that with the top part. So yeah, again, bigger mark. Trying to find where things are. Yeah, and then fill it in as I can. Leave some white, even in a massive silhouette. Just leave a bit of space there. You can always fill it in, but you can never really get it back in the same way. So yeah, better to be cautious with these dark shapes. And of course, we get down to where the landscape meets the river. We want to cut round the boats, make sure we leave a bit of light where we want to for the boats. The boats will be done with some color, which is quite nice, and some strength. But you want to leave a bit of white of the paper, or just a bit of that lighter tone in as well, so that you can cut below it with a darker shape. And there you go, some complexity added, although it's still looking like one shape. Good to try and straighten out the horizon line as well. So as you can see there, yeah, cutting round part of that boat which I've drawn in, just to leave that for later. And yeah, let me know if there are any more questions later on. We are well and truly on our way. So there's actually not that much to do apart from think about the color of the boats. I'm going to go for a bit of a turquoisey blue, um, a bit of a dark one. So um, some final little flicks and touches and things just to see. It's not about this area, but because it's so thick and dark, it needs to still look good. It can't be too boring. Bit of lost and found is always another thing. You could even put some smoke in, but I think that's a bit much. I mean, my students will know I do put in a lot of smoke. I just love smoke. I love the feeling that it gives in a day, in a painting. So yeah, you could be tempted, especially when you have a larger dark area. I'm always looking to put some smoke in. If it's smoke from a fire, from the land, or whether it's from a chimney, or whether it's simply just, some fog or mist that you can exaggerate into part of a dark space. I always like to do that. So we now need to mix up and think about the boats and just go for it. Just go for it. Don't think too much. Again, this is not, this is the size of the paper of this is probably, yeah, you can see an A4 there for the photo. So a bit bigger than an A4, but lower than an A3. So in this type of painting, again, I think with this size, you want to go for emotion, for, energetic brush marks, for color, for exaggeration. And then, if this scale is working, you then scale it up to an A2 for a larger, studio piece, or maybe a competition entry. But when it comes to this, don't spend too much time on the details. So I'm just going for it. I'm adding it in. If I like it, I like it. If I don't, I'll change it. I think I actually do change this one. I don't like what I've done, even though it looks perfectly fine now. I think I do change it quite a bit. So yeah, I think I make it bigger. Yeah. Was it better before? Who knows? Who knows? Get your boat in thicker pigment. So working with, Payne's grey, sepia if you want, or just literally the three primaries, but adding more blue and a bit of Payne's grey into it. And then you can achieve the boat effect. Now, of course, one of the things that we talk about in our, plein air workshops is the power of tone and getting in those contrasts. So getting the darkest of the dark in the focal point, contrasting against the light. If it's the white of the paper, it's great. If it's a light, shade like it is sort of now, then great as well. And it just makes the boats pop. So I've gone with a bit more of a colourful one on this side. And as you can see there, they really do still sort of pop in a way. So yeah, final details. Get your final details in. Also, pop some color. You can pop color on the boats. So if you do something quite dark, maybe get some yellow or get something else. You can see what I'm doing here. Adding in some spots of yellow and just bringing some light back into that area. You don't want it to sort of take away from the sky. So again, simplicity is key, but it being having some yellow parts is always a good thing. And I'm just doing some final, I'm making a tail for the boats, so it's more seen as if it's passing along the river rather than just stationary. I think the other one is more stationary. So what I do with this is, I'll finish this off and then I'll sleep on it, always sleep on it overnight. And then the next morning come back maybe something's off, maybe you want to add, a few little changes. Minor details is always nice to do, just to make sure that everything's in place. But this, you would want to leave this and take the tape off and enjoy, um, and not do too much. It's very tempting to just overwork it as well, and that's not a good thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the signature on it, and then I'll take the tape off, um, and go from there. So I think that is the end of the painting. So hopefully it was, I spoke quite fast. It was quite done, in a fast way. So I'm really hoping that you were able to follow along. And of course, as Hannah said, we've got the recording there. So if you wanted to take it in your own pace, you've got the recording for that. This last part, always nice to take the tape off. I think, just really adds a nice touch. One of the benefits of watercolor is to do this. So there you go. I've exaggerated the light on the water, really creating that moment. And I think it works.
Thank you so much for this, Nick. We have lots of thank yous in the chat as well. And Millie shared, wow, it already looks fantastic earlier on. And Christina says the explanation is great. Thank you very much for sharing your knowledge. Yvette says fantastic. We have a question from Millie. We will answer that at the very end during the Q&A portion. We have Pilar writing awesome. We have Carrie writing looks amazing. Thank you. Let me see if I can navigate. Oh, yeah, now I can. Yay! So beautiful from Danilo. Nadika says beautiful. Carrie says looks amazing. Thank you. Joanna says thank you. Ranjana says thank you. Lovely Demonic. Smita says beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing in the chat. And I'm super excited to see the versions because this is such a dramatic scene. And with your guidance, I imagine there could be so many beautiful versions of this one. Alessandra says super thank you. Hi Sushi Smita. We have Diane. Love the mysterious magic feeling. You're a great master, Nicholas. And would you say that the paper is dry at the very end, or does it still have moist in it at the very end after such a session?
So the sky will be dry because we've worked a lot of time into it, and after the water, you should wait until the sky's dry. But yeah, like the landscape and the water will still be wet even when I finish. If you're wetting the back, you're going to get that time. Of course, if you don't wet the back, then when I'm doing the signature, everything's dry. So yeah.
Okay. And I guess it also depends on where we are.
For sure, exactly. Yeah, it's changes so much depending on where you are.
And now places are limited. We only have 16 spots for this. So this is a very unique experience at a beautiful location with Nicholas, who is a master at plein air painting. He's also a master at traveling, so he can definitely share insights with you when it comes to both painting and getting the most out of the beautiful places that you go to. And that's what he does. Like, there are few people in the world that you could say travels and paints as their standard lifestyle, but this is what Nick does. So he's the perfect guide for exactly what you will be doing here in Vietnam, and he loves these places so much, so as you have already probably felt. So here you get to combine relaxation, exploration with your favorite hobby, or wherever you are. If this is if you are already a professional, this can be a next level for you. You get to connect with like-minded creatives from your community, and you have a chance to make new friends from all over the world. And we see the joy, we see the love, and you've already heard some of that. And there's also a couple of bonuses that we're going to talk about right now. The first one is, for those who joins this journey, you will also receive 5 additional recorded Zoom lessons, which include 5 more demonstrations. So this is what we call Library of Knowledge by Nicholas Tobias, and you can see these beautiful scenes So we have focusing on tonal value, underwater world, working with 3 primaries, connecting shapes in aerial views, painting a beach scene. So this can help you prepare both before and after, because you have lifetime access to these recordings. And then another thing that you will get is you will get the course Atmospheric Light in Watercolor with Nicholas Tobias, which is a beautiful online course. You get that in the standard plan that you can study at any time that you want. And this is also included in this experience. So you get to create 5 atmospheric watercolor paintings, and we're going to take a little bit of a look. And if you cannot join us in Vietnam, you can still take this online course and learn from Nick from the comfort of your own home. Of course, we highly recommend joining Nick at the location, because that is another level of experiencing Nick's expertise and creating memories and immersing yourself in a very special experience. But you can also join the online course. So if you want to join the online course by itself, or if you want to join the experience and get this online course as a bonus, either way, this is a bit of an overview of atmospheric light in watercolor. And here we have an overview. First and foremost, if you feel that you wanted to focus more on skies and that this today was a bit of a challenge, that's perfect, because you're gonna zoom in on that. You're gonna zoom in on how to design your painting, use tone to capture light, soft and hard edges, and storytelling, simplification and visual language, different kinds of scenes. You can see that there's landscape, there are different urban elements. And Nick, do you have anything you want to say about what this course adds and gives to someone who wants to paint more plein air-ish, even though this is an online course?
Yeah, it's a great stepping stone in a way, because you're working on paintings from around the world, and we're going through those building blocks that we spoke about. So if you are familiar and you have done some online courses, if it's in the mind, it's going to help you when you are outdoors as well. So it's always very useful to have these, and yeah, we go through in depth and into theory as well as practice, which is a lovely element to this course.
And this is a learning program that Nick has designed to be a step-by-step, adding new levels of artistry, new levels of the painting process. So we focus in on how to design the painting and using different techniques, using tone to capture light, soft and hard edges, and creating that sense of a focal point, and really choosing where you highlight and how to highlight using watercolor, and then how to storytell and how you can add different choose techniques and different aspects of the storytelling part of the painting. And then simplification of complexities, complex scenes, and visual language. So that is the process in this course, and the results during these steps is that you understand the fundamentals of composition, tone, and light in watercolor painting. You learn to break down complex scenes into simple shapes and create atmospheric mood-driven paintings. And this one, breaking down complex scenes, is very helpful when it comes to plein air painting as well. And you develop your own visual language and storytelling style, because that is one of the focuses here, and become confident in using watercolor techniques to express your perspective, your emotions. So this is the course that we have. We also have at a launching price, at a discount right now. So you can also choose to join this one if you feel that Vietnam is out of reach. However, if you do join the Vietnam experience, this will be included in that. So you can choose to click join the course. That means that you join the atmospheric light in watercolor. You will get to that page. And if you want to join the course while you're enjoying, or before you enjoy the trip to Vietnam and get that for free, then click join workshop in Vietnam. And this journey can help shape you into the artist that you strive to become, and that you feel at your fingertips might be possible for you. And we have limited number of spaces for the Vietnam journey. So if you really know that this is what you want, if you make a full payment, you will definitely save your spot. And let's take a look at the logistics, because this is a big project and it can be good to have answers to the logistic aspects. So first and foremost, the accommodation is that you will live in a Nesta Hoyan resort and spa. Have you been there, Nick, or is it going to be a first time for you?
Yes, I've been there. I haven't stayed there, but I've toured around. I've looked at all the locations for this workshop. So, lovely people there. It's a really great location next to the river, but it's also it's away from the hustle of the old town area. So it's very tranquil and it's close to the beach. So I think it's a perfect spot. And as you can see from the pictures, it's beautifully designed resort.
Wonderful. And you will get here from the airport, you will get individual transfer from and to the airport. So scheduled for your flight and your date. So it's gonna be very luxurious, just arriving to the spa and hotel. So that's a beautiful entrance to this experience. After you have attended, you will also receive a certificate of completion. And here you can see what is included. And let's walk through that, because I just jumped kind of past that before. So first and foremost, what's included are the 6 days of plein air painting workshops. And that includes direct individual feedback uh, on the feedback sessions on your paintings from Nicholas Tobias himself. So this is very unique. Individual transfer from and to the airport, as I just shared. There will also be lots of transfers to the different plein air locations, and those are also included in this price that we have. And will there be a boat tour with a lunch, Nick, on this trip?
Yeah, we haven't finalized that at the moment. There are options, let's say.
Yeah,
Um,
that or something else similar will happen.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I mean,
One.
we've got the yeah.
And then there will be a welcome dinner and lunch at an authentic restaurant, farewell dinner on the last day. The other meals, apart from the breakfast, because the breakfasts are also included in the hotel experience, the other meals will be flexible, so those are not included, so that you are more flexible with where you want to go. There will also be a single accommodation in a 5-star hotel with pool spa feeling, and you can also change that to a double room if you want to bring your partner for an extra fee. And as we mentioned, there will be breakfast in a hotel, there will be the private WhatsApp chat, there will be the 2 online sessions in Zoom in advance, so that you get to discuss the organizational issues and practice together, the certificate. And you will also receive or be part of a loyalty program that will get you a special discount on upcoming Artefacto offline plein air workshops. So that's also something that you get to be a part of. And we have the exclusive bonuses that I also have shared, the Library of Knowledge, those 5 recorded Zoom lessons of beautiful painting tutorials, beautiful painting lessons. So that is an entire journey in itself online, lifetime access to that one. And then the course Atmospheric Light in Watercolor. If you already have purchased the course Atmospheric Light in Watercolor, write to our team and we will be able to find another course so that you also get that additional course. So just write us an email if you already have that experience, if you already have that course in your course library. So the button to join is below the screen. You can scroll down, press that. There you can also read more. So if this was a bit fast and you want to take your time, you can do that there. And if it's a lot to pay at once, you can also pay in 4 monthly installments. Then you can simply click I want to pay monthly. So the first question that we have that we are prepared for, so we have added that here, is who is this program suitable for? And I would love for you to answer that, Nick, because you have been part of creating this experience.
Yeah, I mean it's suitable for advanced beginners all the way through to more experienced painters. It's good if you have some knowledge of watercolor and you're comfortable getting on with painting and you want to just paint. So it's not for the complete beginner. But really, from just it being a hobby to really wanting to develop your own visual language, it's from everyone in between that. It's a great experience also just to be outdoors painting and taking what you want from the trip.
Mm. Thank you for that. And if anyone has any question about is this for me, you can also always, of course, write to our team, and they will be able to help you find if you are the right fit. But I think that wherever you are, if you are into watercolor already, you already probably have that level of understanding and love for it. So I think that if you love this, then you're probably a good fit. That's my guess, at least. Is accommodation included in the price? Yes, I mentioned that it is included to live at this beautiful hotel, and that is the single accommodation is included. Could I bring a non-painting partner? Yes, for an additional fee of $500 or €450. You will get a double accommodation so that you can spend the evenings, nights, and the mornings there, and maybe the afternoons if there's time for that, so that you can bring a partner if you want to. And the transfer to and from the airport, including to and from the locations, are included. However, you will need to fly there, fix the flight yourself. So that's something that. Do you know what the airport is called, Nick? For anyone who's curious.
Yes, it's Da Nang International Airport in the center of Vietnam.
Okay, so Da
And
Nang.
yeah, it's only like it's maybe 40 minutes, 45 minutes, depends on how fast from there to the hotel. So it's quick, and yeah, hospitality in Vietnam is lovely.
Wonderful. And there is a lot of support and guidance for all of the organizational aspects. We have a team who's there for you, and as soon as you join, we have the WhatsApp group, we have the Zoom sessions. You will be very well taken care of during this event. And we also often receive questions regarding the cancellation policy. So here's an overview. My suggestion is to take a screenshot of this if you're interested, because this is hard to remember. But let me read through it so that I have done that. If you notify Artefacto no later than 3 months before the event, you get a full refund excluding €100 deposit. If you notify Artefacto no later than 2 months before the event, you get a 50% refund. And if you notify Artefacto less than 2 months before the event, so closer to the event, there will not be a refund, but you will get 50% of the money as a deposit on your Artefacto account that you can use to pay for the online courses from 45 different masters from all over the world. So you will get a 50% use however you want at the course platform for that. And if you notify Artefacto very close to the event, so less than 2 months before the Vietnam trip, and you find a replacement, you will get the same deal as this one. You will get a full refund excluding the €100 deposit. So those are the logistics there, so that you know what happens when you join, when you purchase, and if something happens, you know how to handle that. So now here is a unique opportunity to meet in person, to paint with Tobias and fellow artists side by side, and also get to know how Nick thinks, how he chooses his subjects, how he sees artworks in the world around him. And just being part of that is something we can never get from the online experience, even if we love the online experience. This is another thing. You will also get the online experience because you will also get the library of knowledge by Tobias. So 5 additional Zoom/painting sessions to your collection, and also the course Atmospheric Light in Watercolor. So wonderful. And if you want to enjoy the nature, enjoy plein air in the company of renowned master and fellow artists, create probably even, this is not updated. So this was from yesterday actually. So this is going to be more likely 12 amazing watercolors of Vietnamese views. and start painting fluently, confidently, get direct contact with nature, better convey volume, lighting, colors, atmosphere, light, and receive live feedback on your artworks from Nick, then you're more than welcome to join this experience. If you have questions, you're not quite ready to join yet, but you want to book a spot, then you can do so. You click the button Join the Vietnam workshop, scroll down to book a place, and then the team will contact you and you will come, you can ask any questions, you can come up with when you are ready to pay, all of these things. And the booking fee will be excluded from the final payment or refunded if spots are out of stock. So it's perfectly safe for you to do that if you want to add some more time. And now it's time for the Q&A, and before we do that, since we've already spent 2 hours together, I want to ask you, Nick, do you have any more minutes or do you need to go?
No, yeah, I can ask some questions for sure.
Then let me take a look. I haven't checked the chat for a few minutes here, so let me see if there's anything else that has popped up. We had a question here from Leslie. Is that a rough paper that you are painting on in this demonstration?
In the demo, it was cold pressed, but actually Bao cold pressed feels like rough someone's watered or ashes. It's very granulating and it feels much more rough.
Ah, so a bit both yes and rough-ish.
Yeah.
Then we have a question from, let me see here. We had a question from Millie. There were some white dots on the top of the sky that you chose to leave there. If you remember, some highlights in the dark blue area or in the upper blue area. And Millie asks, that happens to me sometime. Do you suggest leaving them alone or trying to fill them in? What is the correct answer?
I leave those sparkles on purpose. I think that if you have parts of the painting that's very painterly and fluid and lost and found moments, I don't really like to have other parts which are very tight and connect, and smooth. So if I'm doing a scene, I will also treat the bigger shapes, even if they're meant to be blue sky or smooth surfaces, with a bit of lost and found, a bit of recklessness or carelessness maybe. So yeah, I did that on purpose, and I think you should leave it. That's my personal opinion.
And of course, there are as many opinions as there are people when it comes to art. So that is Nick's way of doing things. And if you're inspired by that and find that beautiful, then follow that. And if you want to create a completely different thing, do that. It's up to you. But thanks for sharing that, how you feel about that, and that is very intentional for you, Nick. Beautiful to know. And then we had the question from, let me find this. I have, Diane says, love the mysterious magic feeling. That's so beautiful. Oh, there was a question from Murthy. Where was that? I have. There were several questions from Murthy, so I thought there was another one. You have already answered what paper you're using, so that's perfect. We also had a question, how do you motivate your students for painting, Nick?
Motivated painting. I guess it's if you're clear with your instruction and it breaks things, complex ideas into simple, achievable goals. I think that is inspiring because then you go from one step to the next and you build into a more complicated scene or more ambitious art works. So I think maybe I try to do it by making things digestible and making it feel like anything's possible.
Thank you for that. We just got a question from Vuka. Please could Nicholas share some recommendations on how to get from London to Da Nang, airline stopover, layover, etc., as I presume he's done that trip more than once.
Yes, so I would recommend if if it's early enough, then go through Emirates or Abu Dhabi, Abu Dhabi or Dubai. So Emirates or Etihad, it's the most comfortable airlines. Some of the best in the world. The TV and TV show selection in especially Emirates is amazing. But also it's quite halfway, so you've got flights which are not too long. I've flown through China, and the first one was a 10-hour flight to Guangzhou, and it was a bit yeah, yeah, I think going through the Middle East is better. So I really recommend that, and you can get some really good deals through even with Etihad or Emirates. Don't think that they're going to be very expensive. Um, yeah, have a look definitely at the actual airlines websites as well. So I recommend that. I mean, what you can do, you can fly direct to Bangkok as well, and then go from Bangkok to Da Nang. So for a lot of people, flying into Thailand to Bangkok will be the first thing they do, and then they'll fly on to Da Nang, which is what I mean. Partly what I do. Well, I'm in Bangkok now. I mean, it's the regional hub, so or Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. So you can do that as well.
That is probably helpful advice for many people, not just from England, but from other parts of Europe,
Mm.
maybe even from North America, or no, North Africa. Let me see if there are any questions in the chat as well. Teresa says, I must go. Like to see you, Nicholas. Thanks, Hannah. Good question, Buka. Francesca says, thanks for the demo. Vietnam is tempting. Buka says, thank you. Beautiful. Yeah, Teresa says, I will search a cheap ticket, and when I find, I can. Yes, beautiful. Exceptional. Thank you from Frederick. Ah, okay. The recording, thank you both for creating a great atmosphere for Minty. Diane says thank you so much, Nicholas and Hannah. And Mila says thank you so much, Nicholas and Hannah. I will paint tomorrow. Today was all my attention. Yes, I can imagine. Caroline says thank you so much for this wonderful lesson. Mary says like there are more thanks than questions right now. Now I found the one from Murthy that I was looking for. How do you
Mm.
find the story in landscapes? That's a great question.
How do you find the story in landscapes? Well, I think it's really about understanding how the landscape touches you. So I think it's a quite personal thing to do is when you're outdoors, what excites you about what you're seeing. I think for many people, it's really the human story, the idea that there is people living their lives on the land, and maybe the land is a big backdrop. And so I think, yeah, the human element really adds a touch. That's architecture, maybe it's workers in the field. Smoke in the chimneys is about human life as well, even if it's about the senses. It's also about what the people are doing in their homes. So I think, yeah, if you want advice about how to find the story, well, then maybe think about the people in the area that you're in. And if you're in a really wild place, well, it's about the majesty of the land. So the story is Mother Earth. It's the nature. Maybe it's a very dynamic tree. You can be more practical with your storytelling as well. So yeah, thinking about it with regards to a dominant subject, dominant rock, dominant tree that just sits within the rest of the landscape and just sort of creates that majesty or that interest. So yeah, honing in on subjects to help you tell, and then the story can develop from the time of day, season of the year, yeah, cold, warm, that kind of thing.
So following more what captures your interest rather than compositional theories. That's what I hear you say, because you could have said, watch the lines and look at the focal point, but instead you make it, yeah, for you at least, it is what captures you and what you want to create, because that's what you love about that scene and that's what you want to share with the people who view the watercolor.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, because you can paint a very functional painting, a very logical painting, which ticks all the guidelines for how to create a composition, but it can feel empty. It can just simply be this rational painting that ticks those boxes. But if there's no heart and soul in it, and there's no story and no emotion, then maybe it's not the story that you want to tell anyway. Or maybe it's yeah. So I think first you bring that from the heart, and then you tick those boxes and say, okay, how do I frame that?
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And I can just imagine anyone painting with you on location getting to sense these decisions as they're happening in a completely different way than we can when we only have reference photos to work from. So the people who join, so lucky to get to work with you, because you have dedicated your life to this. You have dedicated so much of your life to exactly these things. This is your passion, and that's what you share. And we can learn so much online, but there is that other level that those of you who choose to join Nicholas on this trip will just get that next level. So super, super excited for everyone who joins that trip. And I also want to say thank you, Beth, for sharing your insights and your experience so that we can sense more what this is like. And thank you so much to everyone who joined and made this such a beautiful experience for all of us. And finally, thank you so much, Nick, for sharing so much depth and so much watercolor technique tips, and so much of the energy, and just taking us on this experience today.
Thank you very much, and thank you for being a wonderful host as always. I can't imagine doing this with anyone else.
Thank you so much. It's been such a beautiful experience. I'm so happy to be here with all of you, and super excited for that next chapter of everyone's journey. So thank you so much. And thank you,
Thank you.
Courtney, Marilyn, Isla, all of the people in the chat. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Take care.